I-9 and E-Verify are two of my favorite things to talk about. I love to geek out over these topics. I-9 is a document that establishes two different pieces of information. It establishes the identity of the individual. So if Beyonce walks in the door and says, "I'm Beyonce," how do we really know that she's Beyonce? So we're going to establish the identity. And we're also going to establish the authorization to work in the United States. Even if I know that you're Beyonce and you've shown that to me and you've proven it to me, how do I know that you're legal to work in the US? So it provides those two pieces of information. Sometimes you can kind of two birds with one stone. You can use one document and it will tell you both pieces of information. That's what we call a List A document. If you have a List A document, it establishes your identity and it also tells us if you're authorized to work in the United States. Sometimes it takes two documents to get that done, to get both pieces of the puzzle put together. In that case, you would give us a List B that would establish your identity, and a List C would establish that you are authorized to work in the United States. If I could kind of, just share a couple of really, kind of hot topics, things that just pop into my head right away, I think of the documentation side of it. And there's a couple of things to be aware of when it comes to the way that we communicate what we're looking for documentation, the way that we accept documentation. I think the first thing would be that we don't want to ever over-document somebody. Sometimes, somebody will hand us a List B document and a List C document. At that point, it's really, really important that we're done. And I know that people will come to the compliance team and say, well, this person has the driver's license and the social security card, but their work permit is expired. And I'm just like, oh, la, la, la. Once we have valid I-9 documentation, if they give us a B and C, don't even ask about the A. And kind of vice versa, sometimes somebody will come in with a valid List A document. They'll have, maybe a permanent resident card or, whatever it is. And, people will reach out and say, well, I'm kind of concerned they don't have a social security card on. I'm like, as soon as they give you a List A, we're good. Let's not have any more conversations. Let's not try to get any more documentation. Same with the B and C. So just keeping in mind not to over document people. Something else that I really wish that everybody knew is that there's different kinds of social security cards. And there's a variety of very legitimate, very real social security cards, but there's only one kind that's acceptable for I-9s. They may be acceptable for other purposes, the other types of social security cards, but we are looking for social security cards that don't have any restrictions. If it says something like, this is only valid, with, work authorization, any kind of verbiage on it, unfortunately we can't. We're just looking for plain Jane, what is your name, what is your social, and that's when we can move forward. So those are just kind of two things that pop into my mind as far as I-9. The number one thing with E-Verify, and this is the biggest thing, is don't leave anything partially finished, incomplete. Once we start an E-Verify, we have to see it through to the end. E-Verify is actually, it's not a mandatory process. It's not a given. It's something that companies, and especially reputable companies, choose to do. When we, choose to become an E-Verify company, we actually sign a contract with E-Verify. It's something to be really proud of that we work for an E-Verify company. It's definitely a hallmark of a very, reputable company. But we do sign a contract and we need to uphold our end of the contract. And one of the things is that we will never leave an E-Verify, outstanding. We won't leave it not finished.
One of the biggest challenges with filling out the I-9 for some candidates that we see every day in our office is the language barrier. The I-9 is available in Spanish, but can only be used as a reference as the only state which is permitted for the I-9 to be filled out in Spanish is Puerto Rico. At our Lyndhurst, New Jersey office, we do our best to make sure that our Spanish-speaking candidates get the I-9 right on the first try. We provide them with guidance. We walk them step-by-step process on how to do the I-9. And we also provide them with the paper version of the Spanish I-9 so that they can feel confident in getting it done the first time. Well, a trick that I can share that has worked for our office is to be sure that the I-9 is completed in the office as soon as you get the paper copies. Don't let the associate leave the office without getting the I-9 completed. Have them complete the office right there with you so you can provide assistance to them if they have any questions. Make sure that the I-9 Part 1 is done correctly. Even at times with the paper copy, an associate can make mistakes with getting the I-9 filled out.
In order for us to be in compliance with everything, we have to make sure double check periodica, go to your dashboard to double check those open cases that maybe last week, it was pending, it was checked back later, refer to DHS for any update that they might have and notify the candidate right away, and that way they take an action to resolve the case, and that way we can confirm if the candidate are eligible to work in the United States. I would like to share something that happened like a couple years ago. There was a family migrate from Nicaragua. The father was here already, but he was trying to becomes a permanent resident. His 3 sons and his wife. So they came, all 5 came, because he went to Nicaragua trying to fix their legal paper, and then he came back. He has to be reapply because he went for a year, and then when he came back, with all 5, right? So they only have their passport with like an employment authorization on the bottom, which is extended to 150 days until they actually get the permanent resident over here. So compliance and I work it out to bring those people, and make sure they complete the process, and they was authorized actually to work in the United States.